our commitment to improving stability and performance. If you guys remember, in the recent Monster Hunter Showcase, there was a whole section that was just dedicated to ensuring the player base that Capcom was hard at work at improving the performance of the game. This is something that we've known for quite a few months because Capcom had mentioned on Twitter that they were going to be implementing a performance fix during Title Update 4, and that one was going to be one of the more significant performance fixes. So today we have a couple of more updates, and I'm going to be going over it here on the official website. To all players of Monster Hunter Wilds, Title Update 4 will be released on December 16th, 2025. This is going to be next Tuesday. This update will deliver additional content, including Gogmazios, the first Elder Dragon in Wilds, and the expansion of endgame content with the addition of the Gogma Ardean weapons. In this update, we also focus on improving the game's stability and performance, implementing various improvements, including CPU, GPU optimizations for all platforms. So this is actually a three-phase plan. The very first portion of this fix is going to be implemented in December, so it's going to be implemented on the release date of Title Update 4 on the 16th of December, and then there's going to be a second portion that's going to be dedicated exclusively to the Steam platform, and then there's going to be a further update in February 2026 where there's going to be additional optimization. So I already know that a lot of people are going to be asking, why is it taking them so long to figure this out? And to be honest, I'm not a developer. I don't work on optimizing games. I don't know why this took so long to optimize. I do have a couple of theories as to why the game came out the way that it did. And that is because I feel like both AMD as well as Nvidia have been kind of like peddling this thing to a lot of publishers where they go there, probably send like an engineer or something and tell them, hey, yeah, if we implement DLSS and FSR, you guys can just go absolutely bonkers with the visual fidelity of your game, and then we can just fix it in post using FSR and DLSS, and that's just something that's going to fix everything, especially now with frame gen and all of that stuff. And I feel like maybe some people over there at Capcom kind of bought into that, which clearly that is not the case, as we all know, because DLSS and FSR don't just magically fix everything. There are going to be things that you're going to lose, whether in performance or if you decide not to use that frame gen after, a developer decides to go buck wild and just implement all the little bells and tingles and all of that stuff. The game's only really going to be playable on top tier hardware, which, most people can't really afford it. Not only that, but that hardware is also getting more and more expensive, especially now with the AI bubble in full swing and the AI bros buying up all of the hardware. They've already caused the RAM market to absolutely crash because RAM is like 3 to 4 times more expensive than it was a couple of months ago. So thanks for that, all of you AI bros. We really appreciate you just absolutely making gaming even harder for people to get into. But anyways, let's not mince words when it comes to that stuff. That is what I believe most likely happened. And now Capcom's kind of like been playing catch up ever since, because one of the problems about fixing performance for a live video game is going to be that you can fix something that, now your game runs much better, say on a 3060, but because of this change that you've made, you can also break the game for like a 4080 or something like that. And this is also caused due to the fact that Nvidia themselves have been fumbling the ball when it comes to their drivers over the last couple of months, which is interesting because previously it used to be AMD that would be like pretty bad with drivers. But in the last couple of months, Nvidia has also been dropping the ball with that stuff. To give you guys an idea, I remember talking to Cowboy and he was like, man, these drivers during the review period of Monster Hunter Wilds, those drivers were pretty friggin' bad. And since then, we've seen a lot of those drivers getting even worse, which has kind of just exacerbated the whole situation. I mean, just today, this is a different game. I was playing Path of Exile 2, and apparently they don't support the latest version of AMD drivers. So they just tell you, you need to downgrade drivers, otherwise you're going to get really long loading screens. And I was like, that's fantastic. So this is not to say that it is acceptable that the game is in the state that it is in, but this is to kind of explain to people they have to be careful when they implement these patches to make sure that they're not breaking something else by implementing these things, and that is likely why it took them so long, because they want to make sure that they don't run into a situation like with, was it Title Update 2 or Title Update 1, where they were like, oh yeah, we've improved things, and then they forgot to do the shader cache thing, and most people just had the most horrific stutters unless they manually cleared their shader cache, and a lot of people don't know how to do that. But anyways, continuing onwards. 16th of December, CPU, GPU optimization, all platforms. Processing improvements. Processing times will be improved by distributing the process across frames for elements that demand the heaviest load, which includes players, monsters, and graphical user interfaces. Load reduction. Process load is reduced by comprehensively reviewing and streamlining various processes, such as reducing the number of simultaneous effects and improving collision detection for Palico and Sacred. Various other improvements, including optimization and reduction of memory usage, will be implemented. So this is like the big one. Then January is going to feature an additional one specifically just for Steam, which once again just says the word CPU, GPU optimization, new graphics and CPU settings, as well as new presets, providing additional options to reduce processing load. So these are going to be settings in the graphics options that you're going to be able to lower to improve your frame rate, improving shader compilation processes, which will reduce the stuttering that some players are experiencing, VRAM usage improvements, and high-resolution texture packs improvements, improving texture streaming speeds. There's also been a mod recently that's been making the rounds where it just unpacks the textures, and apparently that has seen significant improvements for a lot of people. I haven't really tested that because I don't really do mods, but that's something that some people might want to look into, and maybe Capcom themselves are looking into that and figuring out, if it's working better when it's uncompressed, how can we improve the performance when it is compressed still, which is, I think, what they're saying here, improving texture streaming speeds as well as reduced stuttering for shader compilation stuff. And then in February, we're getting another one, CPU, GPU optimization once again, adding level of detail, LOD quality levels to the polygon mesh for 3D models. So if I'm not mistaken, what this does is like usually if you're at a certain distance, it just renders a lower polygon version of a 3D model, and that causes it to not be quite as heavy. This is something that has been done since the dawn of time, so it is actually surprising to me that they're adding this in February 2026, because we've been doing this for ages. It almost feels like I'm misinterpreting what this is, which might be the case because I'm not the most professional guy. Usually I'm not the most knowledgeable guy when it comes to all of this optimization stuff, because usually the way that it goes is because I need to create content on my computers. They usually need to just have really good hardware to begin with. So yeah, we're also re-examining memory-related processes to identify further potential improvements. So hopefully we'll see a lot of improvements there, but that's not all. To further improve stability and performance, additional improvements will be implemented in a patch exclusive to the Steam version, January. So this is the stuff that we were talking about. We'd like to take this opportunity to express our sincere gratitude to everyone who has reported issues and provided feedback. Capcom has been very active in, taking feedback from players and improving certain aspects of the game. Stuff like the difficulty is something that we've definitely seen improved. So this is something that they're working on as well. Your feedback has aided the development of the team's ongoing work to improve the overall experience through these updates. I'd like to further explain the stability and performance improvements roadmap that was shown in December 2025. So this is just the stuff that I've already read. And then there's actually a couple of videos. So in this case, we have an Intel CPU and an NVIDIA CPU combination. I already have this here. These are unlisted videos that are on YouTube on the official Capcom channel. And it says here that testing was conducted with no frame generation, and the performance metrics were captured using the Steam in-games overlay performance monitor. One of the things that I don't know is if they just used shadow play or what they used, because even though that can have, the performance impact is almost negligible, when you have performance that is as low as a 2060, it can impact performance, even if slightly, when it comes to, that type of stuff with shadow play. If they were using a capture card, then that's a different conversation, but I don't know how they captured. It just says that the metrics were captured with Steam Overlays Performance Monitor. But, this is using a Core i5 10400 and then an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060, which, by the way, really old GPU and wasn't even... Oh, wait, no, this is a Super. RTX 2060 Super. Okay, because the one that I had was just a 2060, which was already a pretty bad card by the time that it came out, because I remember using it and it was just not fantastic. Anyway, resolution is 1080p and it is upscaled using NVIDIA DLSS in performance, and the graphics settings are medium. So now we have here Title Update 3. So this is what the game is running like right now. Now, one of the things that I would point out, obviously we have here 39 FPS, 40. It seems like we're having as low as 37 and as high as 51, whatever, but it's pretty variable in there. But one of the things that I would point out is I'm usually not a big fan of going all the way down to DLSS performance, because I feel like the hit that you take on the visual side of things is way too much. I usually like going more for balanced, but you know, this is what they're working with to kind of like give you an idea of the performance improvements that you can expect. So as you can see here, we're coming close to like 40 FPS on Title Update 3, and now on Title Update 4, we are at 47, 46, going higher. And it is important to mention that right now, with all of the effects that we have in the Windward Plains, this is one of the more demanding areas of the game, because you got like the inclemency, you have like lots of dust particles and all of that stuff filling up the screen. And I know that if you go to Ray Dow's nest, there it's actually more optimized, but they're fighting in the desert, actually in the Windward Plains. And you're seeing like some significant gains here in terms of performance. And obviously, if you have better GPUs, I would expect those gains to kind of like scale upwards. But definitely an improvement. Still not perfect. And do remember, you can turn on frame gen. I play with frame gen on, but you shouldn't have to. It's just the way that these things are. In the Oil Well Basin, as you can see, the performance is better. That is because, like I said, Windward Plains, particularly during inclemency, is one of the heavier zones, and this is in Title Update 3. So if we now swap over to the update for Title Update 4, you can see that we're coming up almost on, 55, getting a little bit better up there, but still struggling a bit. And then we have Lagiacrus in Scarlet Forest, which in Title Update 3, you're looking already at like 50 FPS, lows of 44, ups of 53, then you swap over Title Update 4, and you are actually reaching 60 FPS at times with the configurations mentioned. So it does seem to be significant, but naturally this is going to be one of those situations where your mileage will most definitely vary depending on your own system. So then we go over to the AMD system, and we have very similar metrics here. Let me actually lower the volume even further because it was a little bit loud there. Title Update 3 coming up with like 40-something FPS on the same situation with inclemency in the Windward Plains. Then on Title Update 4, you're coming up a little bit closer to 50, but still a little bit on the struggle bus there because, like I said, this is one of the toughest locations when it comes to this type of stuff. This is also one of the locations that's going to benefit from those settings that they're going to be adding with the January patch. So you're going to be able to improve your performance a little bit more. But still, kind of wish that they were able to fix it some more, but it's at least significantly better than what it was when it released for sure, and still significantly better than what it is with Title Update 3, which as you can see right here, we have 50, sometimes going as low as like 46 up here in the Oil Well Basin fighting New Udra, and then Title Update 4, it's actually going above 60 FPS. But like I said, this is in FSR performance as well, and I would rather have it like being balanced or something along those lines because you lose way less visual detail that way, but, these are the types of benefits that you can expect. You can find the links to these videos on the official website in case you want to check them out for yourself. Once again, here on the Scarlet Forest, coming up between 55, actually 40, had a low of 40 back there. But yeah, 52, 60, and then Title Update 4, it seems like we're above 60 FPS with the 6600 Radeon RX. Oh, I guess I didn't read the actual hardware on this one. So it's the Ryzen 5 5600X and the Radeon RX 6600 with also 8 gigabytes of VRAM to match the 8 gigabytes of VRAM on the 2060 Super. Now, Capcom also has a couple of more things that they're talking about here. These are the links to the videos. Currently in the Windward Plains locale, which is prone to heavy load during inclemency events, frame rate hovers around 40 FPS for both environments in settings 1 and 2 when the frame generation option is set to disable. However, we confirmed that in most cases FPS goes higher than 40 FPS after applying the update. We also confirmed the frame rate improvement of roughly 5% or more in the Scarlet Forest and Oil Well Basin, while in these areas players will generally experience a higher average frame rates than in the Windward Plains. This is one example, and performance may vary depending on PC configurations. Anyway, following the release of Free Title Update 4, we plan to remove the Monster Hunter Titles benchmark because the benchmark no longer makes sense because it's just like super outdated at this point. Steam version exclusive patch. This is going to bring the additional settings that we talked about. Animation quality. This is probably when people are further away. So like when there's an NPC or a monster that's animating further away, they can reduce the quality and that will improve performance as well. It's just something in the line of the LOD stuff as well, which is when things are away, you're going to load a lower version of the polygon, all of that, a lower polygon version of the model, all of that stuff. So we'll see how that pans out. CPU tab will be added to the options menu. This tab will include new CPU options to reduce CPU load, dynamic live display count, players displayed in lobby, small monster quality, effect quality, and animation quality. So lots of bits and bobs for you to mess around in, but you know, that's not really the end all be all. Then we have also here the update that adds arc-tempered arc felt. This is going to be the February update. Improvements include further CPU, GPU optimization. We're currently verifying measures to reduce GPU processing load by adding quality levels LOD to the polygon mesh for 3D models. This may help to reduce processing load. Yeah, like I said, this is a technique that has been used for quite some time with 3D games by swapping the low-resolution models for objects farther away from the camera. We're also re-examining memory-related processes to identify further potential improvements. And again, the reason why it's taking them so long is because they want to make sure that they don't break anything. While we have conducted extensive testing across various in-house hardware configurations leading up to launch and subsequent updates, these tests failed to capture the wide variety of issues experienced by players across their unique setups. We take this matter seriously and are committed to investigating and resolving common issues across different user environments. With the updates announced today, we will implement various improvements to ensure players can enjoy the game with confidence regardless of platform. As mentioned at the beginning, we would like to thank everyone who's reported issues and shared feedback. We appreciate your continued support for Monster Hunter Wilds. Then there's a thing here where you can send your feedback. So my thoughts on this whole situation is like, look, in the beginning when we had the alpha and things were pretty bad, I had a lot of faith that Capcom was going to do much better than what they ended up doing. So am I happy about this? No, I think it freaking sucks. Even though my hard work can kind of like power through it, and I love this game. I think the game is tremendously enjoyable. It is undeniable that we've had a lot of problems on account of the fact that there's some severe performance issues for a lot of users. And it friggin' sucks. I hope that Capcom learns from this. It seems like we're going to be getting performances all the way through to February, which is when the game is going to be getting supposedly the last update that includes new content, which is going to bring with it the arc-tempered arc-veld, which to me is still surprising that is kind of like the last big hurrah. I would have expected at least a couple of more content drops, even if not big major content updates. But it really sucks, and I feel like it is a massive blemish on the Monster Hunter franchise that it took them this long to figure out the performance situation. And I definitely hope that they figure this out for their next couple of games. We have Pragmata incoming, we have Onimusha incoming, we have Stories 3 incoming. And I'm hoping that none of these games, because I believe that they're all also on the RE engine, I hope that none of these games is going to be suffering from these same performance issues, because we've had Dragon's Dogma 2 having performance issues. Now we have Monster Hunter Wilds having performance issues, and just the amount of time it took them to get these fixes done, I hope that they have learned something. This really, really sucks. And yeah, there's just not a whole lot more to say, you know? I'm a huge fan of the franchise, huge fan of a lot of games that Capcom works on. So I know that a lot of people are going to call me a shill and all that, but there's no defending this. It is what it is. I hope that they can learn from it, and I hope that we can get better games from this in the future. But that's pretty much where I'm at. It sucks that it took this long to figure this out, and hopefully by February, we'll at least have a mostly, a mostly significantly better experience than what we've had up until this point. It is what it is. Not a whole lot that I can really do to change that. But you guys let me know how you feel about this whole performance situation. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong. Stay safe. Peace out.